The evidence will show that this is a case where Emani Ellis, on February 24th, 2018, at around 7 a.m., went to her job as she usually did, as a security guard. And her job was to protect the building on behalf of the landlord. And she went to her job on that day, and at approximately, the evidence will show that approximately 1:30 p.m., as she was doing her rounds, she was on the 5th floor, and the defendant got off the elevator. And as the defendant got off the elevator, the evidence will show that plaintiff was excited. She was actually a fan of the defendant before this incident occurred. She was a fan of the defendant. And she said, wow, Cardi B is here, or something to that effect. And then the action happened. The evidence will show that Cardi B misunderstood what happened. The plaintiff was simply excited to see her and made that excited utterance. The evidence will show that the plaintiff had an earpiece on her phone, in her ear. And when she was there in the building, Cardi B, again, mistakenly thought that Emani Ellis was telling people that Cardi B was at the building, but that is not the case. Plaintiff will testify that that is absolutely not the case. Miss Ellis at the time was in uniform. She was working for Allied Security. She had a license to be a security guard from 2014 to 2018. Miss Ellis was hired on behalf of the owner of the building, the landlord. And the landlord has a right to tell people to come in their building or to leave their building. If someone causes a disturbance, the security guard has the right to tell somebody, sorry, you gotta leave. And if you don't leave, we're gonna call the police. Yeah, that's their right to do that. The evidence will show that Cardi B was causing a disturbance. She started to yell, she started to curse, she started to really say things that don't make sense in this day and age. I think we all know that in this day and age, you don't use these type of language to people, okay? I'm not gonna even say the word. We'll have Emani Ellis tell you what the word is. You'll all hear how hurtful that word was to Emani Ellis. After she stated those words and hurt Emani Ellis, she then took a swing at her and attempted to hit her in the face. The evidence will show that after that, or sometime in between that, the evidence will show that Cardi B spit on the plaintiff, actually spit on her. And that's considered, according to the law, the evidence will show that it's considered an assault and battery in and of itself. There's some law enforcement people that would actually assault someone back if they got spit on. You can't just go around spitting on people. So the evidence will show that the defendant spit on the plaintiff. And then finally, to make it all worse and make it really bad, Cardi B then, in the attack, cut Emani Ellis's left cheek. She cut it with her fingernail. Cardi B is left-handed, and somehow she was able to cut the left cheek with her left hand. Okay? Because of this attack, Emani Ellis went to a Dr. Scher. Dr. Scher is a cosmetic surgeon. The evidence will show that Ms. Emani Ellis went to Dr. Scher to find out what can be done to help her with this cut. And Dr. Scher said we need to wait for at least a year, maybe 2 years, because we want to see if it turns into a scar. You can't just run and do plastic surgery. So it did turn into a scar. And when she waited, and it was also very costly. She couldn't really afford the surgery. And as we all know, in April of 2020, the pandemic started. So another couple of years were lost because plastic surgery is elective surgery. So she lived with the scar for another couple of years. And in 2021, Dr. Scher died. He passed away. The evidence will show that. In 2022, Emani Ellis went to a different doctor, Brent Mulliken, who you will hear from. Brent Mulliken is a plastic surgeon who was designated as an expert witness in this case, who will testify in his opinion why he believes where the scar came from in his opinion, which he will testify. The evidence will show that he will testify at his expert opinion of being a plastic surgeon, that the scar came from a fingernail.
Okay, I want to mention first that you may have seen Cardi doze off. She does not live in Los Angeles. She traveled here for this trial. She's very anxious to see this, to be here, but she got food poisoning on the way out. And so I'm sure all of you can imagine how terrible that is. Do not mistake it for a lack of interest in the case. She's come a long way, and this is a very important proceeding for her, but she is sick, and so I apologize for that. This is the last time, the last opportunity I'll have to speak to you directly and tell all the evidence is in. This is my chance to tell you what I believe the evidence will be. Now, what I say and what counsel has said today are like promises. We're predicting, we're promising you what we're going to show, and at the end of the trial, and I want you to remember the promises, because at the end of the trial, I'm going to ask you who kept their promises and who didn't. Now, obviously, both sides can't tell their side of the story at the same time. That would be chaos. So in our system, the person who filed the lawsuit gets to go first. You've heard many times today that it's very important that you keep an open mind, that you hear both sides of the story before, both sides of the evidence, both sides' documents, before you make a decision or come to any conclusions. It is the only way to be fair to both sides, that you hear all of the evidence and not just jump to conclusions. Now, this is what we expect the evidence will show. First, Cardi is a loving mother to 3 young children and a devoted daughter and sister in a tight-knit family. She came from a very humble beginning. She is a successful recording artist now, but she was born in poverty in New York City's Washington Heights. She worked very hard to get where she is. In 2015, she joined the cast of a reality show called Love and Hip Hop New York, and from there, she all of a sudden got all these followers. And that ended up with her becoming a Grammy Award-winning and critically acclaimed recording artist. Now, second, the evidence will show that in late February 2018, Cardi was about 4 months pregnant with her first child, excuse me. It was early in her pregnancy. She came out to Los Angeles for work, basically, related to the NBA event. And she asked a friend, or she asked someone to recommend a gynecologist. She wanted to just check. And so she made an appointment, or an appointment was made for her, to see a gynecologist at a medical building in Beverly Hills. They took special steps to make sure this was private. The appointment was on a Saturday afternoon. The doctor, the gynecologist, had arranged for his staff to leave early. Her normal security person did not join her, because what could happen? She was going into he stayed in the car, she was going into a doctor's office, so what could possibly happen? And what happened was Plaintiff. The evidence will show that plaintiff had her phone to her ear when the elevator opened as Cardi was trying to make her way to her doctor's office. She was a patient. And the plaintiff stated out loud, "Wow, that was Cardi B." Cardi turned around and saw the plaintiff holding up her phone, filming or photographing her. And Cardi said, "Why are you doing that? Why do you think you can photograph me? Just steps away from my doctor's office." And the evidence will show that plaintiff's response was a belligerent "because I can." Now, you will hear evidence that plaintiff continued to follow Cardi as Cardi tried to get to her doctor's office. Evidence that plaintiff continued to yell at Cardi. That when people from the doctor's office came out and told plaintiffs to stop, saying, "You're a security guard, what are you doing?" That plaintiff continued, and when someone intervened and got between them, plaintiff started taking swings at Cardi B. As Cardi B backed up and backed up, Cardi B was, facing someone, with all respect, who testified and admitted that she was 240, 250 pounds, wearing black military boots, hovering over Cardi, yelling and screaming at her and taking swings at her, trying to get to her beyond the person who was trying to intervene and trying to calm things down. Now, I don't take any pleasure in saying this, but there will be evidence that it was plaintiff who yelled, "I will your up." That's when someone intervened and dragged plaintiff to an elevator and said, "You have to leave. You have to leave." You will hear Cardi's testimony that she both feared for her unborn baby. This was her first pregnancy, and a very large woman was advancing towards her, and she was utterly confused that a security guard would be her attacker. Importantly, plaintiff has repeatedly changed her story over the last 7 years.